All right. So we're taking it way back here on the Common Rule visuals, if you will. This is a collection of photographs slash slideshow, if you will, of a band called The Vacation. I believe they're from Los Angeles. I was going to say, I think they were from Long Beach, but I'm pretty sure they were from Los Angeles, just wherever. Let's just say, why not? They look like they're from Hollywood. And another band that followed them, and I can't remember what their name is. It had the word Scarlet in it, but not to be confused with the San Diego band Scarlet Symphony. No. I don't, and I'm pretty sure they were from San Diego, but hopefully somebody out there who knows, let me know, because my notes, I took notes on the show, but I totally I've lost them somewhere. I used to actually take pretty decent notes and write them down, but as I started archiving, some files came over and some files didn't. So the first set here, what I'm showing basically on here is the set of The Vacation. And for any photography nerd out there, I didn't shoot in RAW, so I shot a lot of JPEG. I shot all JPEG on in this the show notes say, or my show notes say, that the date on this was on June 7th, 2005. At this point, I think we were probably, I'm not positive as I look through all these photographs, but I think you might give or take a day, but otherwise I feel pretty confident about that. So what I did in those days was basically shoot just in JPEG form, which basically, for anyone who doesn't know, it's really a very, as far as in this day and age, it's very a precarious way of shooting, especially in really low light situation like this. But I think I got lucky a lot during the beginning there. And this is a slightly embarrassing show that I'm showing. It's not that, I think obviously you can see that I love the music, and of course I love photography and what I wanted to shoot, but I think you can see that while I had ideas, I am very amateurish as far as the overall sense, I think, of the vibe and of the show. Some composition might be off, but some of it is good. I did experiment a lot and I did shoot a lot, but I also edited. I'm just showing the good, the bad, and the ugly here. The way that I edited, man, I look at these and it's a little cringy because I am miles from what this is. And I even gave them a little retouch here, but you can see the same photograph over and over again. And, it's I think one of them was edited one way, another one was edited another way, some weren't even edited. And it got to the point where I used to actually take so many pictures, I just clicked the good ones and then I would delete a bunch of all the bad ones. And today, man, I so wish I didn't do that. So, I decided to do this because it's kind of, I'm going through a sort of, let's just say nostalgic, reminiscing sort of vibe. And I just started to go through and look at some things in the past here. And I decided to, let me take a look at some of the very first things that I shot and, just see what I can remember about them. This was shot at Brick by Brick out there in San Diego. And what I remember from the show, as far as the sound of it, this band wasn't terrible. They were all right. They made a good noise and they had a great stage presence. They went all out. They did their thing, and it wasn't groundbreaking by any means, but they were definitely showmen, especially the lead singer. He went out and did some things. And here's what I appreciated the most out of this kind of band, or out of this band and these type of bands that play in front of absolutely no one. There was probably, from what I remember, there must have been 10 to 15 people in the club. I don't remember what day it was, but it was, there wasn't hardly anyone there. And these guys played their fucking hearts out, and I will always appreciate them for that. I don't know where they are or what they're doing, but I hope they're, I hope they had a lot of fun from it, basically is what I'm saying, because I think that they put a lot more into this music. I don't know if maybe they caught on, were a little, let's just say, not enough retro, and I don't know, maybe their timing was way off. It definitely seems like a band that if they would have started 10 years earlier, they probably would have made a go at it. Maybe even 20 years earlier. They definitely had a great vibe to them. And when I first started out in photography, again, I was just, very, very, well, let's just say, naive about a lot of things here. This was back in the MySpace days. And even, man, I remember when I used to look for bands and to photograph, right? And there was this periodical in San Diego. It's still ongoing. It's called The Reader. And what you would do is you would go into The Reader, and you would look at bars and bands and the music scene. And you know what? The Reader, and I haven't picked it up in a long time, but at those times, The Reader has some very interesting articles. It didn't have the best writers in the world, not to shit on The Reader or anything like that, but I mean, it's a fucking free periodical. What are you gonna do? It's the best they can do. But they had a lot of interesting articles sometimes, and they I think they did a lot of good for the local music scene. At least it seemed like to me. Because, one, that's where I knew where all the shows were going to be at. You go in there you would look up what bar or what venue was happening, and then who was playing, and then you would go to see a fucking show. And it almost seems like in those days it was easier finding a show for whatever reason. I mean, I'm probably just too old to, remember a bunch of shit, or maybe even too old to see. I mean, you got your social media now, and the only way I think that I can know if a show is coming on right now, if I didn't have The Reader, like if I was expecting the show 2 or 3 weeks from now, I don't know. I'd have to. If I don't follow the tweet or if I don't follow the post, I don't know. But I'll figure it out anyway. I have to, because I got to get back into the music scene. And I definitely want to start branching out besides just photographing all my friends, which is what I've basically been in the habit of doing. When I was in Phoenix, I started to look for shows and hang out with a couple people. And there were some decent bands that I found. But again, it was different than the music in the early 2000s in San Diego at that time. Some of you might know what I'm talking about. And the Brick by Brick, it was one of these venues where I think everybody played at one time. It was one of these stops, it seemed like, for any local band doing the, I guess what I would call the city tour at times. Like one week you would pay at the Brick by Brick, another week you would pay at the Zombie Lounge, maybe, and not, one time, obviously, if you were a band playing every week, that shit got boring, but you know what I mean. There was a few venues that you would go around and play, the next time. And I really liked the Brick by Brick. The setup was good. The sound, I remember, was pretty awesome. And it was just a good place for a show. I don't even know if it's still up and running right now, man. I hope that it is. And there was a couple other places too that were really nice for venues that, man, the one that I am very disappointed at, that I think is making a comeback as of today, in 2022, I think it seems to be the Kensington Club, the Ken Club. When we started going in there, the venue was awesome. I love the way that was set up. It's just that the sound was fucking shit. And nobody ever gave a fuck to, improve the sound. And I was just like, man, if this venue, blah, 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 blah. And I guess someone finally heard 20 years later, or what, well, not 20, but 15, let's say 15 years later. And it's supposed to be up and coming. I'll go check it out as soon as I can, with all these obstacles in the way. So looking at these pictures right here, I can already tell that I was fucking with too much contrast, too much color. And while the black and white pictures were somewhat passable, for whatever reason, I decided that not all of them deserved to be black and white. But some of them did. Some of them made the cut, I guess, if you will. And while I've always had this thing about digital black and white photography, I don't, in the beginning, I was very, on the fence about it. I come in from the film background, and looking in those days, in the beginning of digital photography, black and white film was still better than digital photography. It had what the kids call a better dynamic range, blah, 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 blah. Right now, digital cameras are approaching epic status as far as capturing as much light. And in some cases, if you buy these super fancy cameras that they have nowadays, and even whether it's a medium format or regular, these fucking cameras are amazing. And they are surpassing, I think at the point right now, they're surpassing what a color film for sure was able to do. And I think some of them actually surpass the amount of light they can capture. They're surpassing black and white film. But there's always certain things that you can do in black and white that I appreciate, especially when you get into the medium and large format, that we are still working on as far as what digital can do. But you know what? It's just a matter of time where anything that you can do on a digital camera. Well, there is a time. Well, I'm going to take that back. We are in a time where anything you can do on a film camera, you can do on a digital camera. The only difference is time. When I shoot a picture in film and I scan it and I put it up, that's basically all I have to do if I wanted to get a certain aesthetic, a certain picture from it. If I shoot in digital, I shoot it, I put it in Photoshop, and then I add layers and I fuck with whatever contrast or whatever filter, for those of you who don't know or don't care. And the more important thing is the my focusing and how I want to focus and my depth of field. That is still very much a thing in large format photography that I can control, as opposed to that at the moment digital cameras can't do just yet, as far as the way that I like to do it anyway. But I'm looking at these shows, and here's the thing about photography here and shooting these bands in the beginning. And there's a few bands that, and I've spoken to about this before. Oh man, there's a picture with my flash work on it. That's kind of embarrassing. Hey man, I was just still learning how to use flash, of course, and stuff, and balancing that out with the ambient light that was there. But what happens though, and what I guess I appreciate as a photographer, that I slowly started to miss as some of my favorite bands got more and more, had a bigger and bigger following, is that the intimacy I can get, there's no one there, so I can get right up on the stage with a shorter lens, and I can get a more, let's just say, organic photograph, because I get to be that close to the band and the energy and the vibe. As opposed to when the band started getting a following, I had to move more and more back and take pictures further and further away. I was never the kind of photographer that liked to shove my way up to the front, unless I was, of course, getting paid to do so, which was rare anyway. But I never wanted to disrupt anyone's enjoyment of the show who was really there to enjoy and absorb everything. Even though of course I was there too, I also wanted to document it in such a way that that was Well, let's just, for me, at the beginning, I do remember that I did want to post a lot of these photos. But it was, in those days, it was kind of hard sharing like an entire set like this. It was very difficult to put up 100 photographs or 560 photographs or something like that at one time. And well, the idea is, of course, you should be able to just post the good ones and keep the bad ones. I'm like, you know what? Fuck that. I want to post them all, the good, the bad, and the ugly, the shitty editing contrast that I just fucking put up here. And, these experimental sort of edits that I was doing with very minimal work. At this point, I didn't have Photoshop. I was just using whatever software the camera came with, and I was just moving faders left and right, up and down, or what have you, to get something that I thought would be cool. And some of them, they are a little like embarrassing, to be honest with you. It's just like, man, what the fuck is going on here? But overall, they got to be shown. I was there. This is what happened. I took these photographs. I made these photographs with the help of the energy in the room with the band. And at the end of the day, I am pretty proud of them. Cringy ones aside, I was the only photographer there the night that The Vacation and that other band were there on the 7th of June in the year of our Lord 2005. I think there's a lot to be said in some sort of context, of course. And oh man, look at that flash! Yikes! But there's good ideas in there, and of course it's like, if you just have at it. I think I got better and better at it, but there's certain things where I was talking to a buddy of mine way back in the day when I actually ran around these times right here when I started to really take off, or wanted to take off as a photographer, or wanted to learn a photographer. He was his name was Jerry. I used to work with him at the day job, and he was a really big mentor to me. He helped me out a lot, and I will always be grateful for the amount of information that he gave me. But one of the things that I started, and I actually haven't called him in a while. I need to talk to him. But one of the things that, as our friendship and our journeys as photographers, he's also a great photographer. As our journeys our journey as our friendship and photographers go, we would come back to the conversation. And one of the things that I came about maybe a few years ago, or an idea that I came about, was the thing that I do miss the most as my ego and my arrogance as a photographer grows, is I miss the ability to take a picture and make a picture about anything. To where, if you guys remember, any of you took any sort of sketching class or photo classes in high school or in college, you take all the cliche photographs, right? Leaves on the ground, your grandmother's hands, cars going by, and you would just take a randomness of shitty still lifes and portraits. But you did it because you didn't know any better. And at one point, you go through your artistic journey and you start deciding that some subjects aren't worth your time anymore. And that's the part that it's sad. I wish that I hadn't lost that. And I've been kind of fighting more and more to get it back. It's funny because I'm not trying to compare myself to Picasso, but one of the things, as I paraphrase one of his quotes, because I'll fuck it up, is that you spend your entire life trying to learn how to paint or work like an adult, and once you learn, you end up wanting to go back and paint and create art as a child, as you would have if you had a child's mentality. And I think I understand what he's saying as far as going back and photographing just the dumbest shit, man. You just point your camera up into the sky and take pictures of random clouds, no matter how stupid it is. Take a picture of this mouse. Take a picture of these pencils or whatever on your desk. Whatever's on your desk that makes a whatever crazy still life, do it, man. And of course, we do live in as I say that, and I think about the shit that's on Instagram and shit like that, where people are really taking pictures of anything and everything, and what comes to mind is their food. I appreciate that. I really do. I don't see anything wrong with it, no matter how stupid we initially think it is. I think it's a great way to try to express yourself. Not everything you create is going to be art in the sense of it speaking to the masses, but it can be artistic, and it could be definitely a way to express yourself until you find your voice that you will be able to speak to mass people about whatever it is that you see in the world. So going back to that, I'm looking at some of these basically still lives, pictures of instruments and people, and pictures of instruments and the stage without people. I look at that and I'm like, man, I wonder if, I did lose that for a little while. And I'm going to make it a point to be as silly as I can the next time I go out, and the next time I take a photograph of anything. I don't think that's bad. Besides, we live in a world where it's digital. Who cares? You can waste a couple hundred photographs on anything, and it's not going to affect your wallet, as opposed to shooting a bunch of shit on film, where it's like, man, I probably got to dial it back a little bit because it's going to hurt the wallet a little bit, right? So I remember these days. Again, these were crazy times for me as well. Not super crazy, but I am very glad that I was finding myself as a photographer. By June 2005, I would have, at that point, and the reason I bring this up is because as of today, I've lost my mother about a couple weeks ago now, I think. And by June 2007, by June 2005, I was coming up, I was just shy of the anniversary of my father's death at the time. So I do know that I was working out a lot of things during those next couple of years, to be honest with you, and trying to find myself in some way and try to express myself in some way. And as I look back on it now, I think that photography is definitely something that helped me out a lot during these times in order to process what it is that I was doing. It kept me busy for sure, mentally, emotionally, and physically, to where I was going to a bunch of shows. I was meeting a lot of people and having a lot of great conversations and making a lot of friendships that are still strong today. And I'm just glad that I can't speak enough to how being passionate about something and picking up something and making it go further and further every time can help you in anything in life. I'm in the position I am today, if I tell you, because of a guitar and a camera. I love music, and I ended up loving photography just as much. So this is again, I wish I could remember the other band that ended up closing the show. Man, there's somebody out there that might know who that is just based on the pictures, but here's the problem with that. I took a bunch of pictures of that last band, but I deleted them for whatever. I never archived my work as well as I am today. I don't know what the fuck I was doing. I was afraid of memory, of taking up too much memory or something like that, and that's one of the things where I look back on it and I'm like, man, I am such an idiot, to where I didn't save anything that was worth saving at that time. So I got better. I think in about a year and a half, I started doing a better job as far as keeping all the photographs and actually photographing in a better format to retain a lot of the information and a lot of the color, and black and white if I ever switched it from before. But hey, fucking live and learn, and you're an idiot growing up. And I'm glad I didn't make too many terrible mistakes, even though, I did make a few. But I don't want to relive those days. I lived them. I got to move forward. I make great things. If I saw The Vacation again, I would love to photograph them again, though, and a bunch of the other bands that I photographed in those days, which of course, most of them don't exist anymore. Maybe there's 2 or 3 out there that are still making music, like Grandpa Drew. And in one way, shape, or form, some other cats are still making music that T-Lo from Low Volts, and I believe Matt is still making music as well with I can't remember the name of his band, but I think he's got a couple of bands, but he's definitely still making music, and I'm sure a bunch of other people are as well. I just need to get back in that scene and make those contacts again. And I decided to give myself a goal that by the beginning of summer, I am definitely going to go full go and start going to as many shows, both here in TJ and Rosarito and in San Diego, and start up documenting the scene again. It's what I think is one of the best things that I'm good at, and I should really start practicing with that. All right, I've jibber jabbered enough about this. If you guys got any questions or comments, drop a message, drop a comment, let me know. Take it easy, have a good one, and enjoy your youth.